Welcome back to Making Video Your Business with me, Matt Lee, normally with Chris, but he ain't here today. So got a lovely co-host in Clare Yates, friend of the industry, big in the industry, friend of us. Let's go, action.
Thank you.
That was good. It's a very active start. So we just bought some new ones of those because breaks the ice when you're filming. It's a nice tip for someone. Just break the ice when you're filming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're on stage and on film quite a lot. Stage more so.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous? Like, I mean, that's the podcast about visuals, and you're visually on stage delivering. How did you get into? Claire's an industry trainer. Like, I mean, you said it perfectly earlier when we were doing some green screen filming. But who is it you work with, and what do you give them? Because you've got a good rep in the industry.
Yeah, it's all happened this time around quite quickly. I started training in 2002 by accident. I was an account manager, and an awful lot of what I was doing was training law firms and agents on how to refer business.
Right.
But also having some quite complicated conversations, trying to keep the peace. And it was a law firm that actually said you should go and take your training on the road. And so it sort of happened by accident. And the customers that I dealt with then became my client. I love being on stage. I think I'm actually a frustrated comedian, if I'm honest.
Well, your delivery's not funny because the material's solid, but it's comedic in its delivery sometimes, right?
I love making people laugh, but I also like making people think. I'm not very good with camera. I tend to get quite edgy and anxious, if I'm honest, but I get to a point when I just forget the camera's there.
Yeah, it does. A bit like the Big Brother house. The first 2 weeks, they're all like, oh, camera up there, camera. And then week 3, they're being human again, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just tend to forget the camera's there, which is just as well, really.
In terms of self-development and like sort of continuous coaching, have you had the ability to watch yourself back delivering a session or a little bit on stage? And is it something because I know a lot of great orators and after dinner speakers will watch themselves back, hone their technique, their delivery. Maybe they're touching the ear or doing the hair all the time without realizing, sort of non-verbal tick. Is that something you looked into?
Yes, I have, and no, I haven't done much about it. So the first time I ever saw myself on film delivering a training session, I was actually in a train the trainer course.
Right.
And I realized that I waved my arms around frantically to the extent that it was a real distraction.
Got you.
So I then learnt the technique that you'll see lots of people doing of either making this kind of slicing action with your hands, or I hold my hands together, sometimes always too tightly, and my hands will be aching at the end of a session because I tried not to let my hands be the voice. That was the first thing, but I haven't actually watched much video of me delivering training or speaking. And I have to be honest, a little nervous. I know you guys have filmed a presentation in Oxford.
Yes.
And I haven't seen that back. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that there isn't too much work to do.
I don't think so. No, I mean, because I watched some podcasts back in season 1. And I thought actually, like, there's something to be learnt from other people here in terms of delivery, speed, tone, inflection. I'd never used to have a book because I thought it looked a bit like if you said something interesting and I'm taking a note that I'm not really listening to you, but I am. I've got a head like a sieve, as my mum said. Like we were chatting off camera before about linking names to faces and whatnot. That often I'll get caught in creative quicksand. I'll start a sentence, the lights are on you, I can see cameras out the corner of my eyes, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this sentence. And obviously it gets edited, so I often don't look mega silly. I mean, that's for other people to judge. But equally, I think, actually, maybe there's some work for me that I could do personally on delivery style, like you say, how you look on stage. Because I remember a chap called Andy Harrington years ago who did a thing at Doncaster Racecourse, and he's like a corporate, he's a pretty good trainer, but he was saying about how people on stage, if they show you their throat, they're very comfortable because that's back in caveman days. Like if you're nervous and scared, you tuck your chin down so you're covering an attack. Like, this is really old, like lizard brain stuff, but so when you open yourself up, you're super confident that you don't think anyone can get you in that and also people that rise on their tiptoes a bit when they're talking. That's a subconscious thing to pump blood into the calves so you can make a quick getaway. So you're like ready to run. It's like fight or flight thing. So he said often you'll find the best after dinner speakers, or sort of just people who do speeches, will be quite very still, and there'll be sudden hand movements, but they're deliberate. And like you said about the chop thing, obviously the pointing, like Tony Blair, everyone remember, don't point at someone, but you can do that.
Yes.
And that's, yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to be famous or a YouTuber off this. This is just for chatting to people like yourselves, getting different messages out there and our exposure. But maybe I could be better.
When I first had to present, and it was to 80 people, it wasn't a small presentation.
A big room, isn't it?
That was a big room, and it was a bit of a dare. And as I went to speak, I was so nervous. I was trembling from my toenails to every, the top follicle in my scalp, and every bit of me was shaking. And this squeak came out of my voice, and
just unintentionally.
Yeah, and this guy was right at the back of the room. I remember him so clearly, and he literally just sort of raised up and encouraged me to breathe and to just take a step. And I did that, and eventually out came this voice. And I've watched people delivering training, as you do. And I think my only weakness is I have a habit of talking too quickly. And
Yes.
so it'll be, and you just got to think about the speed at which the voice actually gets to the back of the room.
What kind of things, without giving your training, of course, away, but like, this is some top tips for the people out there on the internet. Like, I mean, a lot of people say kill them with kindness. But I heard you talking earlier about how it's an opportunity. A mistake or a poor piece of feedback is actually an opportunity to improve, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a complaint is unsolicited feedback telling you that something isn't quite right. Now, there are lots and lots of businesses that really struggle to get any feedback. In fact, if you think of all the customer questionnaires you're sent every single week saying, how were we today? Mark your call out of 5. And we only get feedback normally from the phenomenally delighted and the utterly despondent, okay? But we don't get the mediocre, and we don't often get the chance to say, okay, what would make it a 10, So when somebody actually says that wasn't great, then they're giving you something that you can do something with. Now, you may ultimately find that they're wrong, or in your opinion, they're wrong. But for somebody to give you the chance to put something right that was wrong is a one-off. And they could there's so many businesses we walk out of every day, right? We'll walk out of a restaurant and go, that food was rubbish. We didn't tell them.
And they'll never change it because they don't know.
They don't know. That we walk away from a shop and just go, nobody seemed to be interested in us. So we walk out of the shop. We'll go and tell lots of people, oh, don't go in there. They don't care about you. But we haven't given the shop the opportunity to say, I'm sorry, come back in and let's see if we can do it differently next time. So if we get a complaint, it's actually the customer saying, I care enough about this to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And I'd really like you to do something about it, whether it's just listen and let me rant, or fix it, or whatever. But I think we're so busy trying to tell people that they're wrong and investigate to actually prove that the customer's misguided than we are to listen to the fact that actually they've got a point. And we could really improve our systems and our processes and our service by listening to people who care about us.
Years ago, I worked for Lloyd's TSB after university, and they put me through my KICS certificate in customer service. Yeah, I'm glad I did it, because sometimes you don't think, you're so busy doing the do, you just don't put yourself in your customer's shoes very often, and you should, right?
Yeah, particularly when it comes to property. If I've got my house on the market, every time you ring me to say, I've got a viewing for you, I've got to go and tidy up. I've got to go and think about what I'm going to do with the kids' toys. I've got to think about what I'm going to do with the dog. I've got to change some plans that I've got, maybe not put dinner on for a bit. Everything changes while I focus on that viewing. It's upside down. So if the people don't turn up or the agent doesn't call me with feedback and doesn't have an explanation as to why the people that they sent round, you've just sent a stranger round to see my house.
with no
And
benefit to me.
I've put everything to one side to show that stranger around my house, and you can't get hold of them anymore. Kind of, if you start to walk in the customer's shoes, you change the way you sell houses.
Mm,
And I think we just got too busy. We got really clever with tech, and we thought, look at our tech and look at what we do, and let's talk about how beautiful photography. But I'm afraid the photography invites somebody in, but it's still
exactly.
people who sell houses.
Mm.
And if you forget that, then we may as well go and let AI take over. There'll be nobody left in our business.
Yeah, I think it's worrying in that effect in that aspect, sorry, where, I mean, prop tech, there's loads of technology in other industries as well. But yeah, the basics will never go away, will they?
They
Like,
shouldn't do.
mm,
But the other thing is that if you said to me, I need to move, Claire, and you'll tell me what you want in a house, I'm going to ask you why.
mm,
Because I know that you'll say, I need a fourth bedroom, but you've only got 2 kids. So I'll say, why do you need the fourth bedroom? And you might say, I'm working from home. Or you might say, I'm a musician and I want to keep my instruments there. Or you might say that my wife runs a business, a beauty business, whatever it is.
mm,
But there's a reason why you wanted that fourth bedroom. So if I could give you a garden room, or if I could give you a downstairs room that had the same facility to do what it needs to
yeah.
do, you didn't need a fourth bedroom.
You
Three
just,
bedrooms would do. You
but with a
see?
spare room. Yeah,
But
it's
you just
clever.
need to ask and say, what's going in this room? Who's going to be in this room? What are you going to do? And you to change. Why is a garden important to you? We wanted to grow our own vegetables. Well, you're not going to go and give them a north-facing patio. You have to have imagination. You have to know your property stock.
Mm,
And for me, at the moment, the technology's got into such a way that most of us, don't really understand what we've got for sale, and
mm.
secondly, we don't know who's going to buy it.
Is there any other exercises you do then to be enable agent or solicitor to do that, put themselves in their shoes?
Absolutely. So I do a thing called the Nan test. So would your Nan understand you?
Mm.
We're waiting on the other side, Mrs. Yates. Other side of what? Have you got a detached, semi-detached maisonette? Have you got most of the people just go, it's just a flat, love.
Yeah,
And a garden mainly laid to lawn. And I just go, well, what's all that's about? We don't say anything's mainly laid to lawn.
I love that. I'm
In
gonna now.
in lettings, we talk about dilapidations. When nobody talks about dilapidations in day-to-day work or periodic visit. It's time to do your periodic visit, Mrs. Yates. Period what?
Flat inspection, three
Yeah.
months. Yeah.
We talk in words that people don't understand.
Mm.
We if we're going to call somebody, we'll say, I'll call you later on. Well, Nan will sit by the phone from now until when is later on?
Waiting for the call.
When is later on? When is later in the week? Does that start on Wednesday afternoon or is it
Yeah.
Thursday morning?
Yes.
Right? If I order something from Amazon, it tells me the hour window. So why is it we think it's okay to say, I'll call you later in the week?
Mm.
It's too vague, it's too fluffy. And by the way, we never do.
Yeah, yeah,
There are
yeah. Yeah.
there are books with to-dos that basically say I didn't at the end of the week. So why don't we just turn it round and just be polite, make an appointment. So if I say I'm going to call you this afternoon, I'll say I'll call you between 4 and 4:30 if that's okay, Matt.
Mm.
And if you go, that's not good for me, say, okay, well, let's make it a later time, or shall we do
Then
it
it
for
works for
tomorrow?
both. Yeah.
I'm not making it too precise in case I get caught in another call or something, but a half-hour window, an hour window, I think is fair, and it's an
Mm.
appointment. And you're far more likely to get through to me.
Yeah. Do you have the option? I know a couple of people have this where you go, cool, let's chat tomorrow. And then there's no other human interaction. I got sent a link to their calendar to I know this guy like pretty well. Here's the link to my calendar. Book yourself in with me. I'm like, just say I can ring you at 5 or I'll speak to you in the morning or but then that's like you say, it's technology gone too far, possibly.
It is.
Because we're already mid conversation of arranging that chat.
I'm too busy to tell you how busy I am. And actually, conversations about my availability are so tiresome. So just sort it out. Find yourself a slot. There's a good
Isn't
chat.
it? Yeah, like toddle off and find yourself a slot that's convenient to me.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, screw you. But yeah. Beware of technology, everybody. Do you like AI? Like, do you use? Can you see yourself using that in? I mean, even at not say a basic level because it's still very intelligent, but ChatGPT to help summarize or set out some of your course notes or learnings
I've
or
tried. So, very occasionally it's worked. It's helped me to reorder a sentence that I
yeah,
think is clumsy.
mm,
But in the main, uh, I don't think ChatGPT has got to know me yet. All
mm,
the all the courses or the speakers I've heard on it say that you have to teach ChatGPT to be your friend, and at
yes,
the moment they're not. I also find it hilarious because you can spot whole paragraphs that other people have written
hmm
where you think you really didn't write that.
yeah. We did some meet the teams with an estate agent months ago now, and the owner had tasked each of the staff members or the team to write their own piece about themselves. So whether a letting manager or a junior neg or whatever it was, I hadn't really read their scripts through. That was their business, and we do the listening and make sure it looks and sounds great. Again, two sentences, and I was like, "Sorry, what did you just say?" And what they hadn't done was reread it, which was lazy, but they'd included the term real estate in there, and I'm like, "Mate, you live in London. You're an estate agent and you sell houses. I mean, you might sell property as well, but you're not a real estate or a realtor, as they say." And they're like, "Oh yeah," and spellings as well. It'll often Americanize certain spellings, and so I think yeah, there's work to be done on it. I mean, we've started. We need to keep our eyes on it in terms of all the editing stuff that it can do now, and it is catching up in certain areas, and there is some really clever bits.
I've used it to write a poem for somebody's
Oh,
birthday.
cute.
Um, And as I said, now and again, I'll suddenly ask for I'll ask for an image, and I
Yes.
tell you what it's absolutely brilliant for me is the PowerPoint design
Does it do
recommendations
that?
and suggestions.
Okay.
And I don't believe I'm breaking any advertising rules. I use Canva a lot
Yes. Yeah.
for my stuff because I know I'm not breaking any copyright
No,
rules.
no. And there's so much good stuff on there, isn't there?
But Canva also has got AI. So now and again, it will take something that I'm doing and say, "Would you like me to have a play with it?"
Yeah.
I'm not, again, I'm not entirely sure that I prefer what it's producing to where my
Mm.
head was.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to have a go at it, and I do probably at least 2 or 3 times a month. I'll have a little play with it to
Yeah.
see.
Like you say, sort of, yeah, I've heard the same. The more you feed it. But I'd heard people have started using it not to write books as such, but they'll feed it like a video. I said this like clip of us chatting, whether it's 20 minutes long eventually or whatever, but you can feed it our chat and it'll write like a chapter summary of what we said, key takeaways, and maybe give it a chapter heading or something. So, hey, we should write our own book.
We should. Everybody's been telling me about the book I've got to write, and if AI could, if I could dictate to AI and it
Mm,
could write that book for me, but again, I'm still not sure. I think there's something about, and this is why I don't want to do books or anything just yet. There's something about the spontaneity
mm.
of meetings and listening to people's tone of voice and stuff like that, which you just can't get AI to
No,
reproduce.
oh, not at all. I mean, one of our, I thought you were going to say it just then, but one of our most fun things to do normally towards the end of the training is like in the last half an hour or whatever, we'll throw it open to John or Jane sat at the front, like, give me a real life problem you've got today, this week in your business that relates to visuals or, creative stuff. Me and Chris will have a think about it for a minute and we'll go, you know what you need to do is we had a situation with this, and you can use your real life experience for their real world problem and actually come up with some tangible advice that they can take away and do immediately
Mm.
because it's not often it depends how long you've got people to train them for, but half the time they'll go or you'll leave the room and you go, damn, I didn't mention that, or that would have been a good story to tell. And because you can't just stand there and talk all day about your whole existence, but and obviously you write a course and you stick to it, but yeah, I like that aspect of training where it's not, oh, what's going to happen now? It's, oh, what is going to happen now? Like, and almost being put to the test because you've done the training 1,000 times, but actually giving someone a solution to their problem immediately is, yeah, it's quite a nice thing to be able to do, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
And you say you get nice feedback. Do you get, obviously, do you give out feedback forms?
Yeah.
Because we're engaged in the feedback loop. It's so important. But do you have people like off the cuff sort of, oh, Claire, thanks for that training last week. It blew my mind that you taught us about this, that, and the other. And
Yes, I do, and I'm really chuffed. And sometimes they'll say, "Can I take this feedback sheet away with me and send it to you separately?" And I'm always a little bit, yes, okay, okay, thinking, what are they going to write? But I'll give them a due. They send it to me with a really nice email, just saying I just didn't want to just write anything down because I was in a rush. I
I'd like
wanted
to have
to
a
make
think about
sure
it.
that
Yeah.
that that they'd considered it, which I think is really lovely. But it's the ones where I had a day out with valuers. So
Okay.
each of the valuers had like well, it was 3 separate days, 3 separate valuers in this company. And one of the valuers said, "Do you remember that house?" And it was such a funny story because this girl was hiding in the wardrobe. But we still don't know why she was hiding in the wardrobe. But we're halfway round and Mum's showing us round. And this girl just steps out of this wardrobe. And
She lived there, right?
yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She just didn't want to be seen, and I think she thought that we'd finished. So she steps out of this wardrobe. And anyway, he writes me this lovely email and says, "You never guess what I took that house on where that girl stepped out of the wardrobe."
Amazing.
And there was another one where we thought we weren't going to get out. This lady loved the fact that her cat really liked me. And we realised with horror as we were going towards the door and trying to escape that she'd locked the front door well and truly and was only going to let us out when she was ready to. That was a bit, and it was just so funny to be back in there.
On
But
the ground again.
but
Yeah.
each of the valuers wrote a little, told me what happened afterwards,
Right.
which was so nice because they didn't have to. They could
No,
have
and
just
you
said,
wouldn't have known otherwise.
no.
Yeah. And also a bit like making the complaint. It's either got to be that good or that bad that another human takes time out of their busy schedule to write. And I think that's really nice when someone's delivered something to you. Thanks for coming on. If you need any more information about Claire, she really is a great trainer. She hasn't really bigged herself up much. I was fishing for some more big myself up stories, but she's a genuine lady and does know her stuff like unbelievably. So get in touch. We haven't even got a show email, but you'll find her online somewhere.
Yes, you will. CY Training Works is my
Yeah.
website.
She doesn't take more than 15. It's quality service. And hey, let's face it, I think a lot of businesses need training out there,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you, Matt.
You're more than welcome. And I'll see you time specific at maybe a charity event in the near future.
Oh, I think a very near future,
Excellent.
yes.
See you later.
See you later.